Oh, really? Yeah.
I came at this.
Just way more comfortable there. Good afternoon. I'm Jerry Jones, Vice Chairman of the Plan Commission, sitting in for the Mayor. Calling of the roll, the Mayor is not available. I am here. Marilyn?
I'm here.
Dave? Here. Ryan?
Here.
Trey? And I'd like to welcome our newest Planning Commission member, Kim Miller. Welcome to the commission.
Thank you very much.
We'll all stand now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Do we have any potential conflicts of interest on the commission? If not, I look for approval of the Plan Commission minutes from August 23rd, 2022.
So moved.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve the minutes as presented. Under discussion. There's no further discussion. All in favor of the motion state aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Opposed. Motion carries. Items for discussion and possible action. Application for conditional use permit with exceptions by Sheboygan Christian School to install new bleachers and press box at 929 Greenfield Avenue. We'll have Steve introduce the item, and then we'll have the applicants come to the podium, and then we'll open it up after that. Steve?
All right. Thanks, Jerry. We have representatives from Sheboygan Christian School here today, and what we're taking a look at is the school is proposing to install new bleachers and a press box at 929 Greenfield Avenue. Sheboygan Christian School has a strong history of successful soccer program, 5 state championships in a program history, and are regularly competitive in the Big East Conference. Their westernmost varsity soccer field currently has bleachers installed, and the proposal seeks to replace the existing 2 sets of bleachers with 3 sets of bleachers and a press box. Most of the fans attending games currently either stand on the sidelines or bring their own lawn chairs, and this proposal seeks to provide more seating for home and visiting fans at these soccer games. Christian School has been the recipient of a donation of a press box and 3 sets of bleachers from a sister school in Elmhurst, Illinois. Christian volunteers moved these items from Illinois to the school parking lot where they currently sit, and they seek to install them at the same location of the existing bleachers. Christian hosts approximately 12 to 15 home soccer games annually, and this field enhancement won't increase the number of home games or events. They would continue to have the same number of students, parents, visiting fans that they regularly serve every year since the inception of the soccer program a couple decades ago. The field enhancements seek to improve the fan experience through better, more accessible facilities, and believes that the aluminum bleachers and vinyl siding press box are an attractive and will improve the experience for home games. The orientation is on the west side of the soccer field, sitting on the existing footprint currently where the currently installed bleachers are. Christian has no current plans for the installation or use of any type of field lights, and they'd like to have the bleachers and press installed. They're hoping to, they're the defending champions, and we're hoping to reward the student athletes with the bleachers and press box as soon as they can get those installed. The main item that we're discussing here today is the applicant is seeking an exception or a variance for the press box and bleachers. Typically, the minimum side yard setback for a school structure, which would be the bleachers and press box, is 50 feet to a residential side yard, and the applicant is proposing 27 feet. They indicate that they're seeking to install the bleachers and press box on the west side of the soccer field, as this is considered best practice. The soccer games are played in the fall after school, and since the sun sets in the west, fans need to be orientated on the west side of the soccer field so they can see the action and aren't necessarily staring into the sun. Because of the orientation of the new bleachers and press box, the encroachment on the property line increases in order to install them in the same place. There is some landscaping and trees along the property line that are in that area right now. I did also receive a letter from Travis Gahagan, who is the son of residents Patrick and Patricia Gahagan, who reside at 3735 South 10th Street. Mr. Gahagan indicates that his parents had built their house and have lived in the house the past 29 years, and they are on the west side of the neighbors to the Sheboygan Christian School soccer field, and the proposed permit request for the bleachers and press box will sit directly squared up with the parents' backyard. And they had indicated they would like to make the email as part of the meeting notes and objecting to the request. Couple of comments, and the neighbors are here and Mr. Gahagan's here, so if you want to add anything addition, I'm just gonna go through portions of it, not the entire letter. A couple points that they were making was the compatibility of the proposed use and design with the adjacent and other properties in the area. While the school and soccer fields predate the adjacent residential properties, the request for the encroachment of the side yard setback does not, meaning basically the request they're asking for the variance and exception for the bleachers today is new. This request that Christian has for the press box place will eliminate over half the side yard setback requirements of the non-residential side. So again, that's the variance. The minimum is 50 feet, and they're requesting the 27-foot setback. Looking at the press box height, it appears that it may be 20 to 25 feet off the ground. And when they are looking to confirm this, I'm sure Mr. Ingalls can do that at a later date. I believe that the height was approximately 18 feet, but you could speak to that at a later time when you have an opportunity. They also indicate basically instead of granting that variance, that there is plenty of room on the east side of the structures to be placed. So I don't know, can we just put that down just to show the field, and I think there's some of the field. Also stated was they talked about the best practice of trying to put the bleachers on the west side of the field so that the fans and spectators wouldn't have the sun in their eyes. The comments mentioned that while it's understandable the fan experience would be better not having to face the sun, it would not be unprecedented to have everything on the east side of the field. The east side would allow for the installation without the need for the encroachment, and there are several areas in the city where North and South play soccer at Horace Mann, where the bleachers are also on the east side of the field, facing the sun and away from the property lines. Christian High is stating they're only going to have 12 to 15 home games a year, but the parents who reside at 3735 South 10th Street, the Gahagans, would be looking at the press box 365 days a year. There were also some concerns of the maintenance of the bleachers and what would happen to the bleachers and press box over time. What assurance to maintenance of the field and accessory structures would it be in place? And based on current state of the field and walkways to the field, was there any considerations given to change in the orientation of the field? Are there more plans for bathrooms, concession stands, other aspects? So I think in the end, what the Gahagans were indicating is the overall plan here is to enhance the fan experience. Then a phased development plan for a soccer field should be considered. Christian High could do this through a more deliberate plan with field orientation. For my parents, this is a direct effect on them to their home they lived at for 29 years, and for their home is one of the largest assets they currently have. Plenty of room is on the east side, and it's a better location for everyone 365 days a year, and for being a better neighbor to the west residents that share the common property line. Please take this message, and they just wanted the letter as part of the record, and that was attached to your packets. So I can answer anyone's questions, and the applicants are here, and there's some neighbors here for this one as well.
Thank you, Steve. First, we'll have the applicants come to the podium so we can hear you, and you can kind of walk us through what your request is and the reasoning for it before we open it up for questions.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Warmis. I serve as the Director of Finance and Development at Sheboygan Christian School and have for about 4 years now. I think Steve did a great job of summarizing it. I think in our proposal, we laid out what we're looking to do. Ultimately, I think I've been in this room a handful of times over the last couple of years with the improvements that we've done to the property, and this is another step in that direction to continue to make our campus excellent across the board for our families and our students. We of course want to be wonderful neighbors, there's no doubt about that. I understand that this is a newer addition to the current soccer field. But in the pictures Steve had, I would show some more of that as well. But ultimately, two things that those pictures wouldn't show would be we do plan on re-siding the press box as well as repainting the bleachers as well. Two items that we have not done because they are currently stored in our parking lot as it stands. But they would be set up to have matching siding to our building, which for those of you that have been out there, we've re-sided and redone the entire outside as well as the addition. So we would use the same color scheme and matching so that it would configure and match up well with the both existing and new building that we built out on that property. Ultimately is the soccer program is a big part of SCS, is a big part of our partnership too with our friends at Lutheran High as well. So this is, it's a very interesting story. As Steve mentioned, it was donated by another Christian school, so we took advantage of it. It does play, I know the letter mentioned a couple things about, different year plans. I can tell you that this does play into a much larger plan that we continue to look at as our growth continues at the school and what we're looking to do, which we've actually met with Steve and this committee multiple times on both what we have been doing and what we plan to do in the future. So this is not a haphazard thought. It is something that has been rushed in the sense that we do want to get this up in time for the season. So I do apologize if it felt rushed. That was not our intention. We wanted to get in front of this board as quickly as possible while still doing our due diligence. But there are a large portion of our community that obviously support this, that are behind it. We've talked to a handful of other neighbors as well when Mr. Ingles did go by there and kind of explained what we're looking to do on it. But that is the long and short of it, but I'm happy to answer any other questions or speak to it.
Okay, we're going to open up to the Plan Commission first before we do so with the audience. Heading into that, my first question would be, having them be the most directly impacted, have you had any conversations with those that are directly affected, those neighbors?
Yes, Greg, Ingles, and others at our school have had conversations with them.
Okay, second question would be, did you give any thought to putting them on the other side of the field and or potentially adjusting it one way or another on the side that you're proposing?
The first thought, no. I think it was an immediate no because of the sun issue, because we wanted, again, the best experience for our fans and what we typically see at most soccer stadiums that we wanted to emulate and not We had a game last year, our sectional game was in the exact opposite setting, and the sun was terrible for our fans. So we know we did not give much consideration other than what's the best for our students that are watching, our families that are coming, and that's why we determined that would be a good place for it. And so your second question was, have we thought about other places to locate it on the west side? There's been brief conversations about it. Ultimately, we wanted it centered on the soccer field as it would be best for both our streaming of our soccer games. We record all of them. We get a lot of supporters that are not in the area watching them as well. And so we pretty much landed on the middle of the soccer field, or on the west side.
Okay, commission members? Ryan?
Yeah, I got two questions for you. Is there physically enough room on the east side to put these stands?
Is there enough room here? I'm looking at your map here. I don't know if there is or not. Is there?
It would be, I couldn't say one way or another. It would be tight, obviously, and it would be a complete reconfiguration. What we have on the east side right now are two, what I'll call bench warming stations, but they're nice structures that were donated to us by supporters as well that house the players that aren't playing. So those would have to be then reconfigured if we move the bleachers over there as well. So it would be both a additional reconfiguration and additional cost to us to move that.
Okay, and also if we did go with the 50-foot setback on the west side, what would that involve? Just increasing the field by 23 feet to the east, like reseeding it or regrading, or?
Yes,
is there
yes, and
physically
yes.
enough room for that?
Yes, yeah, it would require all of the above in addition to large amounts of topsoil to move it back because of I always get it around. Do we mound it or crown it, Greg? I was crown recently because being the frugal Christian school that we are, when we were doing the addition, we moved a lot of dirt over there to remound and level it off with our excavators and all that fun stuff.
Okay, I was just curious on the options, so thank you.
Yeah.
Dave?
From what I understand, then, basically the only reason that you're putting them on the east side facing west is the sun? That's the only reason?
No, I would say the sun is a big reason. I think the other reason would be historically that's where our fans have sat. That's two. And as I mentioned too, and I apologize, I forgot your name, is on the east side we do have two structures that are built. They are concrete and then built up structures that house our players during, or the bench players, if you will, that aren't playing. The other thing too is that it is, what we have too is we have a JV soccer field on the other side as well. So we like to have kind of the distance. We don't want our fans back to back. So we want to have our fans on the west side for the varsity field. Then that goes soccer field. We've got the housing for our athletes. There's a ravine and then the JV field. So we wanted to have our fans separate as much as possible as well. So multiple factors in that.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? If not, thank you. We'll open it up to the neighbors. If you have a question or a comment that you'd like to make, please come up to the podium. Just give us your name and address. That's all we need.
Hi, my name is Patty Gehagen, and I am the residence that the press box is going to be towering over my yard. I have no questions for you guys, and thank you for being, you've been great neighbors. We've lived there for 29 years, and I feel we were great neighbors to you because I watched over your property, called the police a couple times when suspicious activity happened. But this certainly is upsetting to me, so I'm going to stick to my reading here. So our house was the fourth house built on South 10th Street. We lived there for 29 years, sat on our deck, enjoying our backyard, spring, summer, and fall. That's a little bit longer than your, well, I know having 5 state trophies is wonderful, but my 29 years at my yard, on my deck, was amazing too. And the seating, when you say that your people didn't have enough room to sit, hey, my backyard, I can see. The current bleachers, from my view, had plenty of seating for their fans. Nothing wrong with sitting on your own chairs at the soccer game. We do it all the time, as do most fans. And the press box being donated, I think that is so wonderful that you guys don't have to fork out money to update your field and for your fans and your team. But we paid for our house with blood, sweat, and tears. We're not rich people, but we paid off our house 6 years ago. I worked since I was 16 years old, had 2 jobs right after high school, and worked 46 years at Aurora Sheboygan Memorial Medical Center. My husband worked 41 years at Kohler Company. A factory job, certainly not easy work. No donation to help us. We paid blood, sweat, and tears to have what we have. Well, and you said 12 or 15 games, which is fine. I don't care. You could have 20 games. We wouldn't care how many games you have. But the value for 12 to 15 games and for the value of our home will depreciate due to that press box hanging over our yard for your 12 to 15 games. I don't think that's fair. And so, like I said, have as many games as you want. That never was a problem for us, noise and all. We enjoy soccer games. And improve the fan experience. That one really bothers me. I mean, this is my home. I have yet to hear a fan complain about seating arrangements at a soccer game. We have been to many soccer games, from our son playing when he was young to the many, many games played by our 3 grandchildren who are involved in a traveling league. That is a long season and a lot of games. Fans will come whether or not you make your improvements. The east side of the field is wide open. Those places that those kids sit, they aren't big structures. It's not like ruining my home. Attractive? Well, I don't think so. I'm not fond of a press box towering over my backyard, and I don't find that attractive. I will not appreciate fans walking along the fence line where we have our landscaping. And yes, I said landscaping. We don't just have a few shrubs. I mean, we landscaped our yard. I mean, we love our yard. I am glad you are concerned about your fans' experience. They come for a few hours for a few games. I live here. Big deal about their experience. We are talking about the value of our property. We want to enjoy our retirement and sitting on our deck, enjoying our yard, the birds, our flowers, and all the little critters that come into our yard. That is what we worked for. Again, we are not rich. We enjoy the simple things God gave us. I thank God every day when I sit out on my deck. And that's a fact. I am a Christian too, and God is most important in my life. I'm sorry, but the construction of your press box towering over my backyard is too close to our property line. Which one of you would like that? Great that you are state champions, but you did it with or without a press box and more bleachers. Yard. I mean, go to the east side of the field. You're not going to bother anybody over there. Well, in summary, to build a press box and bleachers to enhance the experience of your fans is a very poor reason for construction. These fans come a few times a year and could care less whether you build or not. We have lived here 29 years. This is our dream house, which we want to enjoy now that we are retired. My backyard is my little piece of heaven on earth. I say my prayers out there every morning, thanking God for all of his blessings. You have the entire east side of your field to do whatever. Please build on the east side. The sun is fixable problem using an awning. Council members, thank you so much. And please, I hope you consider telling them they should build on the east side. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I think my son wants to.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As you can see, it's emotional, right? I don't know where to start, but yeah, I grew up playing soccer. My kids play soccer. Soccer's not the problem. I think all school systems, South, North, Lutheran, Christian, the growth that the community has seen is great. I think the additions that the school has had is fantastic. It's only going to bring in more kids to the school, right? That's the best part of Sheboygan. Build, they will come. But in this situation with this press box, I forgot his name, but I went out and measured everything last night after somebody stopped over and said, hey, there's a meeting tomorrow at 4 o'clock, which I was surprised. I didn't see any of this coming. If you go 50 feet from the fence line, that only gives them 24 feet to the sideline. So the building is 24 feet, or the building structure is 28 to 30 feet. So that pushes them onto the field. If you go to the opposite side, the east side, which my mom had mentioned, and they talked about, I would assume that the city has measured, I would assume that they would have measured as well, it's 55 feet. So what's the difference of building it on the west side, where you're creating all these problems, or pushing it to the east side where it's actually available and you don't need to ask for a variance exception? You go back to, I went to south. You go back to north, you go back to south. You know, when they installed their lights or they installed their fields or football fields, it was a commission, it was a process that was involved. You had the community involved, right? That's how things get done. You don't just throw something out there and hope that nobody comes today, like everybody over here. It just doesn't happen. So if you look at the last late bill that we have for a soccer field, it was Horseman. So Horseman takes care of north and south soccer field, right? So if you have kids at north or south, they play on the turf field at Horseman. It's a beautiful field, $1 million field that they put together. Well, the bleachers are on the east side of the field, facing into the sun when the games are played. Now, how can those people deal with the sun, but Christian high school can't deal with the sun? My kids play soccer, like my mom had mentioned. We do club soccer, we have high school soccer, and we're at these events when the sun is setting, and it is in your eyes. It is what it is. Wear a hat, wear some glasses, it maybe last 20, 30 minutes. So I think Steve referenced the email that I sent, and I feel like the biggest impact of the email would be the option number 2 that I had on the email. It's less impact to the east side. There is space to the councilman's question before. There's 50 to 55 feet. I measured it last night. It's just better ability. I just feel like, you know, if you take this variance away from the west side neighbors, that's what these codes and the restrictions are in. These are built in to protect the residents of that area, right? I understand that there's exceptions and things happen, but when there's a better option on the east side of the field, why are we doing the exception? Is my question. We would love to work with Christian High School. This is the first time we heard of it yesterday when they stopped over. So I'm assuming this has been out in the public for probably months, but nobody's knocked on our door till yesterday, which, thank you, we appreciate it, that's why we're here. So if there's a compromise, I'm open to a compromise. I love soccer, my kids love soccer. We want to make it work, but 12 to 15 soccer games, you mentioned Lutheran, they work together, is that 15 to 20 soccer games? I just think there's a better way to do this versus putting it on the west side and pushing it 25 feet back off the property line. It's got to be 50. That's just what the code is. So in closing, I just want to thank you for your time. We appreciate it. That's why we're here today. Like I said, I grew up in that house. I think what Christian High School has done to their school is fantastic. I think the adjustments, the updates, that's why more kids are going there. That's what it should be. That's what it should be. But this is something that they need to work with the community and the neighbors with a little bit more, is my recommendation. So that's kind of all I have to say, and if you have any questions, I can pause.
I think we're good there. Thank you very
Okay.
much. Any other neighbors like to come forward? Last check. Couple of points of clarification, just so, Ryan is actually Director of Public Works, not a councilman, just so everybody knows that, the guy on the end. He's the Director of Public Works. Also, clarification on notifications
Yeah.
for this, Steve.
Yeah.
10 days, I believe.
I can address that, and, you know, as I've spoken to yourselves and other individuals in these matters, sometimes notice requirements aren't the best in terms of notice to neighbors. We're required by state statute to put it in the paper twice, 14 days and then 7 days prior to the meeting, and then the city sends out notice to people within 100 feet 7 days prior to the meeting. So from there may have been things in the, as far as other public meetings, I don't know, but to be fair to Christian, in this particular instance, north, south, any of those horsemen, when they did the development, had similar notices. So just for everyone's information, you know, the notice is the same for this as we did for the others.
We have no control over the post office.
Yeah. So I'm not saying right or wrong, but that is the notice requirements that we're required to follow, and those would have been followed the same for the others.
Great, thank you, Steve. A couple of points of clarification on the height of the press box. We've heard different numbers. How tall is the structure or proposed structure from ground to height?
18 feet.
18, okay. Thank you. I just want to make sure that's on the record. Commission members, back to you. Dave?
Okay. First of all, how tall are the bleachers without the press box?
Oops, I'm sorry, this one.
The current bleachers that are there are 5 feet.
No, the ones that you're proposing to put up.
Proposed ones are 7 feet.
7 feet.
With a 4-foot catch fence, safety
Okay.
fence around them, chain link.
So two things here. First of all, I would like to see a lot more dialogue between the school and the neighbors. It seems readily apparent that there hasn't been a lot of dialogue. And secondly, I'd like to propose a compromise, and that would be to put the bleachers where you want to put them, but skip the press box and put that on the other side. Now, I'm sure it's probably connected to the bleacher that you have in the diagram, but I think this could be a possible compromise. You still get the bleachers where you want them, get, you know, people out of facing the sun, and yet you'd have your press box on the other side of the field. And perhaps, because it seems that the press box is the biggest rub right now. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so there is a possible compromise here. And I think that if you guys could talk a little bit more about it, and this could, you know, solve some of our problems. Now, there's still going to be a variance on the setback of, what would that be?
20,
The same, that's the 27 for the bleachers.
No, the bleachers are 9 foot. There's a 9 foot difference. If you bring back up that drawing,
So that would be
What-
36.67.
the setback would be 30.
Yes, you'd be reducing that.
Yes,
Correct.
you'd be reducing
Correct.
that by 9 feet.
Yes.
You get your bleachers where you want them, and the press box moves to the other side of the field. I guess I'd make a motion to table this till our next meeting and let you guys have some time to think about this and talk about it.
okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
We'll both second it.
It's been moved and seconded to table for 2 weeks until our next meeting. Under discussion, Sheboygan Christian, I understand you're on the timeline. The question is that acceptable to you?
I think to work with our neighbors, that is very acceptable.
Okay. Steve?
Yeah, and I think what the commission's trying to do is work with both parties as best we can. We understand that everyone's points in this are valid. I don't think we can say anyone's point isn't valid for some reason. So if there's any way that you guys can come together and make it easier for the plan commission to say, yes, that we're good, yes, that's what we'd love to do to work with everyone in this situation. So the more you guys can get that together, you know, we certainly want to work with everyone involved in this.
Thank you very much.
Any other commission members willing to speak? Also under discussion, I've been on this commission almost 30 years myself, and I've seen everything from Litke's Meat Market when they went out of business to Horace Mann, which is right around the corner from my house, to the now failed hospital on the Field of Dreams. So we've had these issues come up time and time again, and I think most often it's communication between the neighbors and the proposal. And I think here Dave brings out a good option, but you have to make sure you're all on the same sheet of music before we can make a decision, and I think 2 weeks would give you time to do that. We'll vote on the proposal. All those in favor of the motion state aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Number 6, application for conditional use permit with exceptions by HR Construction Company to construct and operate a new car wash, Quick Lube, and emission testing facility at the Sheboygan Auto Group property located at 2701 Washington Avenue, the Sheboygan Chrysler Center. Steve.
All right, thank you. We have a couple of representatives from the Sheboygan Auto Group. We have XL Engineering here who's representing them, and I believe we may have some people on the phone. Yep. So I believe the architect is on the phone. So basically what we're taking a look at is the Sheboygan's Chevy on 2701 Washington Avenue. As people are probably familiar, there's a Quick Lube as well as a car wash on the site. And what the applicants are hoping to do is to demolish those 2 existing facilities and create 1 new facility that would encompass all those services, the oil change, the car wash, as well as the emissions. I'm sure maybe people have stopped there. There's an emissions in the one of the dealerships. So this would allow them to create 1 structure to have house all these services for the public. Building's approximately 8,000 square feet, and it would be open Monday through Friday, 7 to 5:30 p.m., and then on Saturdays from 7:30 to 12. No additional employees are proposed as part of the project. No access changes are proposed, so how you get to the site, it won't change. There's no changes to the parking. There's a little bit of change in terms of the site plan as to how this functions. The front of the building in this particular instance, kind of the functional front, is interior towards the 2 retail, what am I trying to say? The 2 dealerships. And so the rear, which is on Washington Avenue, is actually what you see on Washington Avenue. So the Architectural Review Board looked at that last night and was happy with the drawings. There would be, like I said, some minor changes in terms of parking because of the demolition, new spaces, new travel lanes, and you can kind of see how that functions, that you would be taking away the 2 facilities over, adding some parking, adding a travel lane, and coming into the oil change, into the car wash, into the emissions, and then out towards the Washington Avenue side. So that's how the facility is. It's estimated to be about 2.8 million. The proposed timeline is March 23rd, and hopefully with a completion date of 2023. Applicant says we don't have a total sign package right now. You could go to the elevation now. But they are requesting a couple of exceptions. Basically, the maximum amount of signage on that property is 4, and the dealership already has a number of those, so they are requesting a variance today to have some additional signage on the facility. So what they're asking for is they'll be working with staff, but they're looking for that variance. And then there's some locational landscaping variance that's required. The Plan Commission may want to have the applicant address just the oil tanks and waste oil, and are those inside or outside? I think last night at the architectural review, we talked about the transformer and dumpsters, and just to have a little understanding as where those might be and what that might look like. I think there was discussion on a vacuum. I don't believe there's going to be any vacuums, and just the intention for signage. So other than that, staff was recommending approval, subject to the conditions you have, and I can answer any questions, and the applicants are here.
Thank you, Steve. Applicants want to come to the microphone, and on the, I almost said radio, on the phone, if you have any comments as well.
Yeah, my name is Ben Warnchus with Excel Engineering. We're the designer for the project, civil engineer. Just wanted to, I guess Steve did a pretty good summary of what the project is. I did want to just address a few of the staff comments that were within the staff report. Steve had mentioned about the dumpster enclosure. There will be a dumpster enclosure added near the northwest corner of the building. And then the transformer, which was supposed to go on the west side, will be moved to the east side. Just some developments with, speaking with the power company, they'd prefer that the transformer is located on the east side to be on the north side of the facility. And then, like Steve said, we're just requesting a few extra signs to be allowed on site, just with the amount of signs that are on the existing buildings. Just kind of some denotation signs, calling out the car wash, the quick lube, that sort of thing. So really just a few extra signs on site. Steve also mentioned about the landscape requirement variance. Really there's an existing variance for the site which reduces the amount of green space required on site. We'd be requesting that variance to be, enacted for this project as well. We're actually reducing the amount of impervious on site, increasing green space on site with the proposal. And then just about the oil tanks. So both bulk and waste oil will be all stored within the building, within the basement of the building.
Okay.
That I think pretty much summarizes all of the questions that staff had within the staff report. So if there's any other remaining questions that any other council members would have.
Okay, we'll open it up to the Plan Commission, not the council. You don't wish that on me. Dave? Trey, no offense.
The address on that's not 2701 Washington Avenue. The address is 2537.
For the facilities?
Yeah, the Quick Lube is
Gotcha.
actually 2537. Where the Chevrolet store is 3400 South Business Drive, and our Chrysler store is 2701.
Gotcha, okay. And
Our address is actually 2537 at the Quick Lube.
sounds good. And the two facilities are on the 2701 property.
Oh, is that what it is?
I'm just saying, I think that and that's not that critical, but I appreciate it.
I just wanted to be
Yep.
sure that
Sounds good.
the address was.
Great. The questions I would have, just two. One, being a frequent user over there, I'm looking forward to not having to go into the dealership to get the emissions testing. But with the new building, previously, when I went in for an oil change, you came out, if you were having your tires rotated, into the fourth bay. Now that fourth bay goes away, you only have the emissions lane and the 3 bays. Will those all be done in the same bay now?
It's an updated.
Yeah, so this is Nate Herbst, applicant. By going with pits in the 3 quick lane bays, we have the ability to rotate tires as we're changing the oil. Better speed up the process for our customers, and that frees up that other bay. So we can do emissions testing in that lane and not bottleneck the dealerships at certain times of the month when we're really backed up.
Yeah, and that was my question, because then it reduces points of impact with somebody coming out and around and having to get back in line. The second question, do you have enough, do you think, considering what he just said, at certain times of the month, that one lane is going to back up a lot for emissions potentially? Will that affect the stacking in the other lanes? Or have you measured that out, and do you think you have enough throat space there?
We've got about quadruple what we have as it exists today. For both the emissions testing lane and the quick lane queuing, as well as the car wash. And we're gonna have all our traffic going the same direction instead of, coming in from one direction to the car wash and another direction to the quick lane and people trying to get service for emissions. This is just gonna really improve the flow of the entire facility.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Kim, just hit your button here.
I'm hearing a few more signs. How many equals a few more signs?
It would be 4 additional signs proposed.
located directly on the building?
Correct.
And how many signs do you know are there already?
I believe the report states that there's 4 on site.
I think, so on the dealership, I believe there's 6.
Signs on the buildings?
On the dealership building that this property, or that this building's going on. The ones that say Chrysler, the brand names are on the building. So what they're talking about doing is the maximum number is 4. This is, if it was its own separate parcel, they wouldn't have any issues. But because it's on another parcel, like say we have like Washington Square or something like that, that only allows a certain amount. If this was on its own parcel, they would be okay. But because those other ones, and I think what we've seen, kind of like with a previous Jiffy Lube, not trying to compare, but I think they said like oil, but I think it said like service, you know, and so to direct people to the proper queuing lane, I think those are some of the things they're asking for.
Thank you.
I would also add that it's almost a net zero because we're tearing 2 buildings down that have 4 signs on them now.
So here's the.
Okay, so those are some examples of the signs we're
Yes.
talking about.
Yeah.
Does that help? Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think, to her point, my bigger question, especially being a user over there, are the directional signs. So right now, it's kind of a free-for-all. People come in, you're looking for a sign that says emissions or whatever, and you just kind of drive where you need to. So it will help having more directional signs on site.
For the emissions piece of it,
Come to the podium.
Yeah, we can, just for the recording purposes.
and I just want to say for the emissions piece of it, how we have it now is, I mean, cars get backed up, they run into our dealership east and west now. And it'll back up all the way from where they come into our dealership, all the way around back to where where they pull into the actual dealership. Now they're gonna continue on down and come around and come up. So it'll be a lot less congested for people pulling into the store as well. A lot safer, I think.
Yeah, I 100% agree, because every time I pulled in, the car was like right on my door. I was afraid somebody was gonna hit me. Marilyn?
Thank you, Jerry. I agree too. A free-for-all was a very nice way of saying it. I wandered around quite a while before I spied the emission sign.
I know, it is. We have it on a pole as you pull in, but it's.
Depends upon where you pull in.
We've been there a long time, and we do more emissions testing than any other testing site in the state of Wisconsin. So we do a lot of emission testing, and we're one of the only, for a while, we were the only one in Sheboygan County that did it. So it gets very, very busy there, and it's just gonna make it that much more efficient for customers coming in, for our employees as well, because how they have to maneuver into our dealership now, it just makes it, the functionality is much better the way we have it set up, so.
Good. And so I would like to make a motion to approve subject to staff recommendations.
We have a motion and second to approve subject to staff recommendations. Under discussion. If there's no further discussion, all in favor of the motion state aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, opposed. Motion carried. Thank you. Do you know when you'll break ground?
What's that?
When will you break ground on the project?
I believe in the spring is what they're saying now.
Great, thank
We
you.
were hoping to do it earlier.
Moving on to number 7, application for conditional use permit with exceptions by McGooey. Is that correct pronunciation? Oh, McGooey, sorry, dermatology to construct an addition, to construct site improvements, and to operate a dermatology clinic at 832 Michigan Avenue. Steve?
All right, thank you. The applicants are here, and we're taking a look at 832 Michigan Avenue. Some of the members might recall that we had approved the conditional use earlier this year when the owner was considering purchasing the property. At that point in time, they wanted to make sure that the Plan Commission was going to approve the proposed clinic, which the commission did. And subsequent to that, a lot of the things that they were going to do was to purchase the building, and before they spent money on architecture and engineering and things like that, get that approval. Now we're at the phase where they're taking a look at the actual improvements themselves, which include closing in that porte cochere that you can see in the picture before you as their reception area. They're adding an addition to the building on the southwest corner, so we'll go through some of that. They're looking at, you can see a lot of the broken up concrete that they're looking to pave, new parking, and some of the landscaping. Many, this has the Spanish tile and different things like that. And oftentimes you just drive by this site because of the landscaping at the corner of 9th and Michigan is so overgrown that you kind of don't know where the building is. So we're fortunate to have someone taking a look at it and interested in doing the improvements here. So again, it's Susan Magui who's going to operate Magui Dermatology, and they would be creating approximately 4 to 6 new jobs and approximately about 20 patients per day. It's an outpatient clinic, and the services offered are during normal business operating hours, Monday through Friday, so there wouldn't be any type of emergency medical services offered, so there wouldn't be any noises, ambulance, and things like that. And they're aiming to revitalize the interior and exterior of the building and the property itself while respecting the existing neighborhood residences and commercial businesses. The parking site of the area is adequate for their expected patronage. However, they intend on paving and striping the parking lot and doing some improvements to the access on 9th Street. Right now along 9th Street, it's just basically cut from the alley, almost to the corner, and they're gonna reduce that down to 24 feet and have just that single access drive. They're also looking at upgrading the building and landscaping to create an environment that's more consistent with a professional practice in this commercial area. As dermatology aims to improve the physical well-being and appearance, it's very important to have a building and property that reflect these priorities, and the existing landscaping will be removed, and they're going to add a little bit more greenery, tidy up the landscaping, and make the building and the site visually more improved. Looking to start construction potentially this fall with occupancy in early part of 2023. The building will now be approximately 2,900 square feet. The original building was 1,900. Enclosing the canopy adds about 500, and there's a new addition adjacent to the outdoor patio. You can see some of the improvements would be that patio and fencing, so there would be an opportunity for their employees and customers that space would be along Michigan Avenue, so there would be an opportunity as people are waiting or as employees are taking their lunch or on a nice day to have some nice outdoor space facing Michigan Avenue. The goal of the clinic is to be clean, monitored, identifiable location along Michigan Avenue that stands out against the other buildings while honoring the scale and timelessness of the neighboring architectural styles. And the development will bring new life to this currently unused building. The current design is a Spanish-style building, and the materials on the project are now going to be inspired by clean, modern lines with traditional materials such as stone siding, precast sill wainscot, light gray stucco, and exposed wood beams, and a standing seam metal roof. The applicant did have a couple of alternatives. The building did go to the Architectural Review Board last night. Couple of different things as far as some windows and some fencing heights and things like that are all dependent on the supply chain and what's available. And so in order for them to move forward, they provided a couple of alternatives with the building and windows and fencing. The Plan Commission, when we originally had approved the parking lot, had approved a condition that that's completed by June 2nd of 2023. I know they're interested in getting that done much sooner, but staff would have that same condition, allowing him to get going just in case you don't get to it somehow, some way this fall. So June of that same condition is there. let's see here. They're taking a look at installing a monument sign, and that would be at the intersection of 9th and Michigan. We haven't had a formal design, but they could work with staff on that. And then they are looking at two variances. One is from the locational landscaping requirements, and one is to have a 4.5-foot fence in the front street yard. Typically, we allow for 4 feet, 50% open, and that was one of the alternatives. They may be at 3 feet, or they may be at that 4.5 feet, and they wanted to have that option. The facility has been tired and weathered for a significant period of time, so the proposed improvements, the exterior remodeling, the paving, the landscaping will significantly improve the aesthetics of this building and property. So we're happy to see Susan taking a look at this and cleaning the property up. So I can answer, staff was recommending approval, subject to the conditions. I can answer any questions in the applicants here.
Hi, I'm Suzanne McGoey of McGoey Dermatology. Moved here 6 years ago. My husband and I are excited to raise our kids here and spend my professional career here and build a business as part of the community. So happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. And it's been nice having our own little touch of the Southwest on that corner, but it's time for it to go. Plan Commission members, any feedback? Marilyn?
Thank you, Jerry. I'm glad you've come to Sheboygan. Good, good, good. Now, it's an outdated style, which I think is darling, but darling is probably not the look you're looking for. So I'd like to make a motion to approve, subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve. Under discussion? If there is no further discussion, all in favor of the motion state aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Good luck, Susan.
Thank you very much.
Number 8, General Ordinance number 10-22-23 by Alderperson Heidemann, annexing territory owned by the city to the city of Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Chad.
Thank you, Chair. So what we're looking at is the Gartman Farm, which is, if you look here on the drawing in this area, is primarily most of this area that's in pink. The area that frontages Stall Road on the south is already annexed into the city. So the Gartman Farm is everything from this line north. It's 195 acres. The city bought this property from David Gartman in April of this year, and we're planning to develop affordable and mid-range single-family subdivision divisions in this area. But the first thing we need to do is annex the property. So this petition would be to annex that 195 acres from the town of Wilson into the city of Sheboygan.
Okay, any questions from the commission? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
It's been moved and seconded to approve as presented. Under discussion? No further discussion. All in favor of the motion state aye. Aye. Chair votes aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 27th, 2022. I have entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
An emphatic motion to adjourn. All in favor of the motion state aye. Aye. Chair votes aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Number 1 is here. Number 2.